Hi, welcome back. If you're following along with these videos, this is where we left off in the last video. So we created a blank solution, so all we have is just this program.cs file and then this empty main function. So in this video, I'm gonna show you a little bit more of the syntax of C# and show you all the variable types and just get you more comfortable with just the syntax overall. So to begin with, we have this public class class C# tutorial. So a class is just going to be a collection of all of your different properties and functions. And then we have this public static void main method. So you'll notice with the class as well as this function there's a public keyword to begin with, and that's just saying that anywhere in your code you can access this class or this method. So another keyword that you'll often see is private, and so that means if, for example, this main method was private, then you would only be able to access it in this class. And then static we won't worry about right now, but void means that this main method is not going to return any value. And then we also won't worry about the arguments right now. So let's begin with all the variable types. So if you've programmed before, then all of these are going to be pretty familiar. So there's an int, so an int is just an integer, and then you call it whatever. So we'll just call it number right now, and then a semicolon. So that's just defining that integer right now. You can also instantiate it with a number like 0, for example. And then you can also do a double. We'll do number 2. And so with C#, if you just do, let's just do 1, for example. So double is a decimal number. So you can also do 1.1 or whatever. But if you leave it at just 1, then it still knows it's still a double, even if it is a whole number. So then there's also a string. So that's something like this. So that would be an empty string. If we did that, there'd be nothing there. But you can't do that. If you wanted a string that's empty, you'd have to do string.empty. Oh, we forgot to call it something. So string, let's just say name. Or if you wanted to do something specific, then I'll just do my name, just like that. So those are the most basic variable types. C# you can also do something like this. If, for example, you don't know exactly what your variable is going to be, then you can do something like this. Say var, and then I'll just call it variable. So this var keyword it basically means it could be any type, but the thing with the var keyword is you can't just define it and leave it like this. You have to instantiate it to something. So if we did that, then if you hover over, then it says it's an int because it knows 1 is an int. But if we did 1.1, then it says it's a double now. Or if we did high, then hover over and it shows that it's a string. So those are just some of the simple types that you can do. You can also do simple math with them, like number. Let me show you how you can use that var keyword. Let's do var total equals, and then let's do number plus number 2. So we know that it's going to be an int because 1 plus 0 is a 1, but, or it could be a double as well. But if you were adding or doing any sort of string manipulation and you didn't know, then using that var keyword just makes it easier for you to do stuff like this. So it says it's a double, but it could be either. We could cast it to an int if we wanted to. So now let's move on to some if statements. So with if statements, if total is greater than 2. So this is just saying if this total right here is greater than 2, then do whatever is in these brackets. So let me show you another thing to print to the console. It's console.writeLine. You could also do write instead of writeLine, but writeLine will automatically create a new line after whatever you put in here. And then let's just say we'll write yes or whatever. So if the total is greater than 2, then write yes. You can also do greater than or equal to, or less than, or you can also do, if you want to see if they're equal to each other, then do the double equal signs. Or you could also use the keyword is if total is 2. That's the same thing as the double equal. It's just another way to make it more readable that I like to use. There's also an if else, so if else, and then console WriteLine, and then we'll say no. And then we'll leave it at that. So you can do an if else, or you can also do an if else, like that, if you wanted to. Alright, and now let me show you some loops. So I'm sure you're familiar with a for loop like this, int I equals 0, and then something like that. So this will, so you start off with this I, it starts out with 0, and then whenever I is less than number, go into here, as well as adding to the I, So this will loop through and do whatever is in here. Do something. It'll do whatever is in here however many times I is less than number. Yeah, so I'm sure you've seen other programming languages with that, so that's pretty standard. Also, this is how you do comments, is with a two forward slash. C# also does something cool. First, let me show you another variable type. Let's do a list. So to create a list, let's do list, and so in these put whatever data type is going to be a string. So let's just do int. So, and then we'll call it int. And then, so that's how you create a list. A list is basically an array that you can add and remove from dynamically. C# also does have arrays if you want to, string and then just the square brackets and then name it whatever you want. So this list called ints is going to be a list of ints. So you can add and remove and manipulate it however you want to in the code. So let's say we wanted to loop through all of the items in that list. If we wanted to do it with just a normal for loop, then we would do something like this, but do ints dot count. So it's the same thing, but it's if I is less than the total number of items in ints. And then to access it, whatever is in the counts list, then we would have to do ints and then the square brackets and then I. And then we'll just say we'll equal it to I. So you could do something like that, which is pretty easy. So you would be looping through whatever is in the ints list. So the first item in int, you would set it to the number, so you'd set it to 1 or whatever. Another thing that you could do to loop through that list is C# has a for each loop. So this looks like, so since it's a list of ints, we have to say for each int, and then we'll call it j, just since we used I over there. For int j in ints, do whatever is in here. So what this is doing is for each item, you can call it whatever item in there, then do something. So instead of having to use the int's name and then the square brackets and j, you would just have to do j equals 5 or whatever. So that way you can just access it. Oh yeah, I forgot. With for each loops, you can't assign whatever this is. You have to, it's a read only, so you can't directly assign the number or whatever. you would have to just do something like this. You'd have to do something like that, or whatever. So you can't assign it in the for each loop, because this is read-only. So you'd have to do something like this. You'd have to, if you wanted to assign all of the items in that list to something, you'd have to use the for loop. There's also while loops and do while loops. So it would be do something while, like that. Or a while is while, let's just say while int stock count is greater than 0, then do this. So it'll loop as long as the int count is greater than 0, then do whatever is in here. So we could do something like int stock remove whatever, 0, sure. So we would be removing the whatever is in the 0, the first item. Alright, so hopefully that gives you some more information on what the syntax looks like. In the next video, we'll move to some more, we'll move to different methods, so we'll be able to, I'll show you how to pass in information to different methods. That way you can make it more object oriented. And yeah, so thanks for watching.